Let's start with the Islanders because I think that they have the highest ceiling of these four teams. They're in the Final Four last year in the Eastern Conference Final, losing Game 6 in overtime to Tampa Bay. Um, Nothing to be terribly upset about. I know your brother's an Islanders fan too.
Yeah.
Nothing that you or me or your brother can be very upset about is much further than I ever thought they would go. And Tampa Bay was last year and still is a phenomenal team. They haven't lost a game yet, despite losing their best player Nikita Kucherov to a season-ending injury. But they've looked really, really good so far. They had one stinker last Saturday, the 16th, against the Rangers. They lost 5-0 at the Garden. Semyon Varlamov, their goalie, gets hurt in warmups. Ilya Sorokin, the rookie, 25 years old, steps in. He stinks and whatever. I mean, it's one game, his first NHL game. But the other three games have been played by Varlamov, and it's been a shutout against the Rangers, a shutout against the Bruins, and a one-goal performance against the Devils, and he's been phenomenal. We'll see what happens on Sunday. I assume it's probably going to be Varlamov again. And then they have those two games against Washington. So the team has been able to score nicely, which is good. There's been some flux on the bottom six, but they've been able to score, which is better. And in a short 56-game season, to get off to this nice start, 3-1, and have the goalie looking really good is really promising for the Islanders.
Yeah, I think you throw that 5-0 loss kind of out. It's kind of just you lose your goalie. Like it's kind of just it is what it is at that point. I know you don't want to do that in a shortened season, but that's just kind of what it was for the Islanders. But I love the way they play hockey. I mean, they're well coached, well disciplined. They play complementary. I feel like that's all really good stuff. Good defense, good goaltending, and if they get enough scoring, that's always been the case over the last now 2 years. If you get enough scoring, they should be good. And I feel like, especially in this format where you're playing a lot of the same teams, I think that's going to help them being well coached. I talked about the chess matches that probably will go on. Having one of the best coaches, in the whole NHL is going to help you with that with Barry Trotz. And again, I feel like this team, especially in this year, they're well equipped. You just look at all of these COVID seasons, it's usually teams with the best coaches that win, and the Islanders are going to be one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you look at the Bruins game as kind of the magnum opus of the Islanders over the Barry Trotz era. It's a boring slog of a game on Monday afternoon. God, that game was boring. And oh my goodness, come on, somebody score. And Varlamov's keep it a minute, and then they get this fluky baseball goal from John Gabriel Pageau. They win the game 1-0, and Varlamov throws a shutout, and Pageau gets the one goal they need, and they win. But that has proven over the last two seasons to have slumps, right? Just before the shutdown last year, they were dying. They were on their last breath. They're out of the playoffs by the time. People forget that, right? They go to the Eastern Conference Final. But on March 7th, when it all ended, or March 9th, whatever it was, they were out of the playoffs. They lost to Vancouver. They lost like 7 games in a row, and they're out of the playoffs. And they lost their last home game, March 7th. That's what it was. I was there. They lost to Carolina. It was a bad call, but they lost in overtime to Carolina, and they barely got any points. They're out of the playoffs, and then they're able to pull it together. So that the way they play has proven to have slumps over the past 2 years. You just have to hope you avoid that and hope it doesn't come in the spring, because then you're kind of screwed. This division is really, really jam-packed, right? Besides, going into the season, right, in the 5-on-3 preview I did with Mike Messina, we kind of agreed that the only teams who really didn't have a chance to make those top 4 spots in the playoffs were New Jersey and Buffalo. Now you see New Jersey playing really well. Buffalo has not been good this year, so take Buffalo out. So you got 4 teams for 7 spots. The Rangers are currently one of those teams sitting on the outside because they have not been good. Boston is currently one of those teams sitting on the outside, basically because they couldn't score against Semyon Varlamov in that one game. They're 2-1-1. New Jersey also 2-1-1. So those are the 3 teams that are sitting on the outside. Granted, it's so early, but you have to think 3 teams are going to get left out, right? If Washington's coronavirus situations keep going, right, there's no reason to believe that they would. They could fall out. Like in a 56-game season where 7 teams are going for 4 spots, every single one of these games is wildly important. And I think getting off to a good start, which the Islanders and the Devils have, the Rangers really haven't, is really important. And for the Islanders, getting this break that they're getting this week with Washington is huge.
Yeah, I think that's something where, you talk about the team so close together, COVID, that starts to kind of, rear its ugly head. And when you have good coaching and you have a good culture that's like, look, we're here to win a Stanley Cup. We're not going to go on the road trip and get, out for 2 games the whole week. Like that makes a play at it. And like that matters. And I feel like that's something that will matter. And with these teams so close together, I think that's why you give an edge to the Islanders, because in this, you don't really know what's going to happen day to day. And look, I feel like even if the Islanders lost a few of their good players, I would still think that they can still win games, and maybe some other teams can't. And I feel like that's something that's going to help them. And you talk about this division being so close together. That's also another thing. You want to see these teams play. Once they play more, I mean, it's going to probably even get more muddled. So again, it'll be really interesting to see who goes on, who's on the in, who's on the out. And again, so early, but I mean, I think that's going to be something down the line to watch out for.
I'm really curious how this week is going to impact Washington's future.
Exactly.
3-0-2, 8 points in 5 games. Again, it's such a small sample size, I know, but they're first place in the East right now. And they should be. They fired their coach, Todd Reardon, and hired Peter Laviolette, who's a true and tested coach, right? He's an old coach. Excuse me. So now they're going to play 2 games against the Islanders, granted at home, but still against the Islanders, who are a good team, without their starting goalie, Ilya Samsonov, and without Alex Ovechkin, and without Dmitry Orlov. That's huge for the Islanders, right? They're going to only play 8 games. They're going to play 8 games against Washington this year, and 2 of them are going to be without their 2 best players, their best offensive player and their starting goalie. To me, it's 2 must-win games right now for the Islanders. The Devils, they play tonight. You would like to see them win that game, of course, but going up against Washington, it's a team that you have to beat in order to make these playoffs this year. It's 2 must-win games, because if you can't beat them without Ovi and Samsonov, then you don't have a chance to beat them with Ovi and Samsonov. And at that point, you might as well just pack it up. What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing. Like that's a quarter of their games. You win, that gives you a huge jump. Like, I mean, and I know it's this early in the season, but you're only playing 56 games. So if you can get 2 wins there, and again, you're starting to string something together, and if the Islanders continue to look good, I mean, you're just hoping that those rough spots don't hit towards the playoffs, then, you should be in pretty good shape, I feel.
Absolutely.